So we're going to start with those feet nice and wide. We're going to do some Cossack squats. So we're just going to sit down into one hip, standing up, out over to the other. So just kind of get those hips open wide a little bit. Just kind of get some blood pumping through those legs. Just kind of bounce back and forth through these two. So be working, working a bit on hips as usual, mobility stuff with some added strength. So we're going to take those feet together in your squat stance. What we're going to do is actually hinge forward like you're doing an RDL. Then we're going to bend those knees into a squat. Then we're going to extend those knees back to the RDL and stand it up. So what we call a Kong squat, like King Kong. Hinge over, hinge those knees, extend those knees, hinge and back up. Let's do two more of those. Hinge, knees, knees, hips, and last time, hips, knees, knees, hips. Cool, so we got some of that going on. Then we're gonna walk back, we're gonna lock those out into a high plank position. We're just gonna get some alternating T-planks here. Just kind of get those shoulders working. A little bit of stretch through that upper body. When we come up to the ceiling, reaching that hand as far as the ceiling as possible. Thinking about really extending that fingertip to the ceiling. Making sure, as usual, that core stays nice and tight. Making sure we're not dipping down or bridging up, but rather we're staying nice and tall. Let's go one more each way. Big extension. Now we'll bring it back to that plank. Push back to that downward dog. Stretch those shoulders. So alternate, really pushing those heels down to the ground. And we'll walk those hands to those toes and roll it on up. All right. So we're going to start with kind of transition from your strength or from your warm up to your strength. So we're going to take our feet nice and wide like we would our Cossack squat position. I'll kind of show you what we're doing. We're going to kind of go into a lateral lunge. We're going to hinge those hips over. We're going to reach those hands out to the ground. So we're in kind of this triangle position. Still weight on this left leg. I'm going to walk my hands out. I'm going to bring that knee down to the ground. Am I still in frame? Kind of. Okay, and from this position, I'm going to come up to a kneeling position and extend those hips open. All right, so really squeezing that glute there. Then we're just going to reverse that, pushing those hips down. Putting those hands down, I'm going to bring that knee up, walk those hands back, hands up off the ground, still in that lateral lunge. I'm going to push that back to standing, okay? Bring this camera down a little bit. We're going to do that 3 times on the left side, then we'll switch to the other side, all right? So we'll take a good long lunge. We're going to sink down into that. We'll hold that for just a second. We'll bring that chest closer to the ground. Notice my left knee is still about 90 degrees. Put that hand down on the ground. Still trying to put as much weight onto that left leg as possible. Very little on your hands. Walking those hands out basically as far as you can. And we'll lightly bring that knee down towards the ground. We'll bring our chest up off the ground. Push those hips forward. I'm getting up on my toe on that right side. I'm just emphasizing that right glute. Really driving that right hip through. I'm going to sit back down, hands to the ground, push that knee up, walk it back, take that pause there, hinge up, and push it over. All right, I'm going to do it one more time on that side. Big long lunge, dropping down. Hinge those hips to that chest to the ground, hands down, lock that out. Knee comes down to the ground. Sit it up. Hips open. Squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it. Sit it back. Hands go back down. Walking those hands back into that hinge lunge, chest high, and push it up. All right, so now we're gonna go to the right side, or if you did the right side that time, the other side. Long lunge, sinking into it. Find that position, will give you an extra second since it might feel a little imbalanced. Hinge that chest down. Bring those hands, walk them out. Bring that knee down to the ground. Hands up off the ground. And extend through those hips. Really squeeze, 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 squeeze. And back down. Hands down. Rotating that knee back up. Hinge it up. And stand it. Good. Hopefully, again, you're trying to put as much tension into that quad as you can, as we're putting all of our weight, or as much of that weight as possible, onto that right foot. In this position, again, we are looking for your hips to open and squeeze. You feel a stretch, obviously, through that extended hip. Squeeze your glutes as tight as you can. Bring it back down. All right, be intentional with each position as you hit through these. Good. We're gonna go one more time on that side. And think about your weight shift. Think about trying to put about 80% of your weight on that right foot. Hinge it over, still pushing, really digging that whole right foot into the ground. Walk those hands out, knee comes down. Bring that chest up. Up and squeeze one last time. Squeeze those glutes as tightly as you can. Push those hips back. We'll bring that back up. Still keep that lunge, 8% of that weight. Hinge it up and push it up. Cool. All right, so now we're just do a quick run through left and right one more time. All right, to the left side. We're gonna hinge that over just to kind of put a little bit of more pace into it. Just kind of flow through those, get a little bit more evened out, left and right, still being deliberate in our positioning. Coming to the other side. Should feel good through those hips as they open through each subsequent rep. Boom. Hinge it up into that deep lunge and stand it up. All right, awesome job. So we'll shake that out. So now we're gonna go off those legs onto those hands for a little bit. So what we're gonna do here is a very slow eccentric push-up. We're gonna add that T-plank rotation into it, and then a little bit of hip mobility. So I'll show you one time what does it look like. We're gonna slow that push-up down as slowly as we possibly can. We're gonna bring it all the way down to the ground. Get a little up dog, just to kind of get off those shoulders, and a good strict push-up all the way back up. We're going to T-plank it out. From this position, I want you to focus on raising those hips as high as you can, and we're going to bring that top hand over. So you're trying to create as much of an arch through your side as possible. Almost think like you're doing a down dog, but on the side. My feet are staggered. If you can manage doing it with your feet stacked, you can. We'll bring that out. We'll bring that back down. All right, then we're gonna go down to that slow push-up. All right, again, you're slow, slow, slow. Slow as you possibly can. Bring yourself down to the ground. All the way to the ground. And hinge up into that up dog. Stretch that back. Back down, good strict push-up from the ground. T-plank the other side. And this is that position that will start that arch, hips up. You're pushing away with that down hand, reaching with that top hand. Trying to stay as tight forward and back as possible. Try not to rotate your shoulders or your hips. I want you to put effort into this reach. Think about that top foot reaching, that top hand reaching. Bring it back to that T. Back to that push up. Good. And slow, eccentric. I want you to move slowly. It doesn't even look like you're moving. Bring yourself all the way to the ground. Think about pulling yourself down to the ground. Hit that ground. And hang out that up dog for an extra second if you need to. Come back down. Good strict push-up to the right side. T-plank. Start putting that in that reach. Big arch. Hold there for about 3, 2, 1. Make sure we hit back to that T-plank. Bring back down. Alright. Slow eccentric. On you as best as you can. If we need to drop to our knees here, we can. Good, as soft as you can into the ground. Hang out for that up dog for a breath. Bring that back down. Good strict push-up. T-plank onto the left hand. Bridge it up. Big of an arch you can manage. And we'll hold here for 3, 2, 1. Hit that T-plank again. Bring that back down. We go one more time, each side. Slow push-up. Breathe regularly through these. And into the ground. Extend up. You have a little flexibility in that back there. Good strict push-up. Out to that T. Into that big reach. Hang out there for 3, 2, 1. Back to that T. Good. One last push-up here. As slow as you possibly can. If you need to hold that plank or that bent arm plank, you do that. Just make sure we continue to keep motion through that push-up. Nice flat back and down. And extend that up. Oof. Got one last good push-up here. Good strict push-up to the left side. Last T-plank. We'll bridge that over. Really push those hips up. Try to keep them stacked. 3, 2, 1. Back to plank. Back to our push-up. And we'll walk it back up. All right, nice job on that one. Take a quick breath of water, or sip of water. Don't breathe the water. All right, we're gonna do one last little set here. So we do those inchworms a lot for a warm-up. Then I'm gonna put a little extra into it. So a little ab work. So you're gonna do this along with me. We're just gonna roll right into it. So we're gonna hinge over like we would a traditional inchworm. All right. Get our hands out to the ground. We're going to walk this out into that high plank position. And we're going to keep walking those hands out until we're in a kind of an extended plank. So you should feel your abs activate here. We're going to tap our knees to the ground. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to walk those hands back to our plank position. We're going to hinge back into our loaded beast. So my knees are up off the ground. When I'm focusing on driving my knees to the outside, coming back to plank position. One more time into that beast. Really spread those knees out. Back to plank. I'm going to walk those hands back to my toes. Once I get here, I'm actually going to grab my toes. I'm going to sit that down into a good deep squat. If you don't quite here, you can widen your feet out if you need to. All right, we're going to grab those toes, extend those hips. One more time, that back down to that squat. Hold here for a second again, really driving those knees out. Come back into that extended. I'm going to roll that back up. All right, that's what we're doing. We're going to do a couple more of those. Start to take that good hinge. All right, try and keep those legs as straight as we can. We're going to walk those hands out. Really establish that good plank position. Then we'll keep those hands going walking. Get as extended as you can manage to where we still feel those abs. Remember those knee taps. 2, 3, 4. We're going to walk those hands nice and steady. Keep those hips level. Establish that plank. Push that loaded beast. Drive those knees up. Back to plank. One more time to beast. Loaded beast. Knees out. back to plank. Hips go up, walking that back into the beginning of our inchworm. Grab those toes, drop that good deep squat. Hang out there for a second. Again, this deep squat should be driving those knees away from each other. Grab those toes, hips come up. One more time, good deep squat. Drive those knees out. Lift those toes if you can. Get a little of that shin burn. Grab those toes, hips come up. Roll it on up. Nice. So I think we got time for one more of those. Push those hips back. Knees are straight. I want you to try to hinge at those hips best you can without rounding that back. Alright, get as low as you can. Alright, bend those knees a little bit if you need to. Walk those hands out. Try to keep those heels down as long as you can. Establish that plank. Really drive that belly button up to the ceiling. Continue to walk those hands out with a good, stiff, level hip position. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. Pull those abs. 4. And walk that back into plank. Again, try not to move anything but those hands and shoulders. Establish that plank. Re-engage those abs. Push back, glute beast. Really drive those knees away. Try to squeeze those glutes. Back to plank. Take a breath. One more time. Glute beast. Drive those knees away. Push, 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 push. And plank. We're going to bring those hands up, or those hips up. Hands back to those toes. Grabbing on those toes, sinking it down. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Hips come up. Take a breath. Drop those hips down. And get that squat as deep as you can manage. Grab those toes. Hips come up. And roll it up. And there we have it. That's going to do it for today, folks. Hope you're feeling mobile. Hope you're feeling strong. Hope you bring your friends next week. So we will see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for a little bit more mobility. Have a great night.